Listen close, sailor. What I'm about to tell you isn't legend. It isn't folklore whispered by drunk old men in harbor taverns. This is testimony. Testimony from the sea itself, written in salt and silence, signed with the names of 47 men who walked into something that had no right to exist in our world. You sit there with your coffee, warm hands, solid ground beneath your boots. You think the ocean is just water, hydrogen and oxygen, tides and currents, fish and storms. You're wrong. Dead wrong. The sea is a membrane, a skin stretched over something vast and patient and utterly indifferent to whether you live or die. And sometimes, just sometimes, that membrane tears. What comes through those tears? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. Pour yourself another drink. You're going to need it. Because what happened to the Geestreader and her crew isn't just a story about men dying at sea. Men die at sea every day, have died for thousands of years. Drowned, starved, frozen, murdered by pirates or storms or their own shipmates. Those deaths make sense. Horrible, tragic sense. But the death that took the crew of the Ghost Eater wasn't death as you understand it. It was transformation, consumption, a slow dissolving into something that still exists, still suffers, still knows it exists, trapped in a moment of time that never ends and never truly began. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back. Back to when the world was younger, but no less cruel. Back to 1761, when the Dutch East India Company, the Verenigde Oostindische Company, the VOC, was the most powerful corporation on earth. Not just rich, powerful. They had their own army, their own navy, their own courts and prisons and execution grounds. They could declare war, sign treaties, mint their own currency. The VOC didn't just trade with empires. It was an empire. A corporate empire that saw the entire Indian Ocean as its private property and every island, every port, every human being from Cape Town to Jakarta as assets to be exploited. It was the golden age of sail, they called it. Golden for the men in Amsterdam counting their guilders. Not so golden for the sailors doing the actual work. A round-trip voyage from the Netherlands to the East Indies took 18 months minimum, often 2 years. 1 in 3 sailors died before reaching Batavia dysentery, scurvy, typhoid, accidents, punishments so brutal they made the British Navy look merciful. The VOC didn't care. Sailors were replaceable, cheap. Desperate men lined up at every port, willing to sign contracts that were barely distinguishable from indentured servitude for a chance at the wealth of the Orient. The Geestreader was built in Rotterdam in 1753, a brigantine 2 masts, square-rigged on the foremast, fore and aft rigged on the mainmast, 120 feet from stem to stern. Oak hull, copper-bottomed to resist the shipworm that ate through lesser vessels in tropical waters. Fast for her size, maneuverable, the VOC designated her for the spice-run Batavia to Amsterdam via the Cape of Good Hope, carrying the cargo that made millionaires: black pepper, nutmeg, mace, cloves, cinnamon, and when space allowed, luxury goods like Chinese porcelain and Japanese lacquerware. Captain Cornelis van der Meer took command in 1757. He was 43 years old. Born in Vlissingen to a fisherman who died at sea when Cornelis was 6. Raised by an uncle who beat him regularly and put him to sea as a cabin boy at age 9. Van der Meer clawed his way up through pure competence and ruthlessness. By 30, he was first mate. By 35, captain. By 40, one of the VOC's most reliable commanders. Reliable because he delivered cargo on time, intact, and profitable. Reliable because he didn't drink, didn't gamble, didn't keep mistresses in foreign ports. Reliable because he ruled his ship with an iron discipline that bordered on tyranny. He was also, by all accounts, A man who believed in nothing he couldn't measure. No God, no luck, no fate, certainly no superstition. When sailors spoke of sea monsters or ghost ships or cursed waters, Van der Meer would laugh a harsh, barking laugh and assign them extra watch duty for wasting air on nonsense. He named his ship Geestraider specifically to mock the superstitious. Ghost eater, he'd say, because we devour every foolish spirit story we encounter. The sailors hated him, respected him, feared him, but they sailed for him because he brought them home alive more often than not. More often than not. Remember that phrase, sailor, because even Van der Meer's impressive survival rate wasn't perfect. Ships were lost, men died, but until March of 1761, Van der Meer's losses were always explainable. Storm damage, pirate attack, fire in the hold. Things a maritime court could understand and file away. What happened in March of 1761 was not explainable. Not then, not now, not ever. The Geestraider departed Batavia on March 3, 1761, at the tail end of the wet monsoon season. Not ideal timing, but the VOC's schedule demanded it. 47 souls aboard. Let me tell you about some of them, because they deserve to be more than numbers. They deserve to be remembered as men before I tell you how they ceased to be men at all. First mate Adriano das Neves, Portuguese, 40 years old. Missing his left ear, lost it to a Dutch cutlass during a bar fight in Malacca 15 years prior. Fought back, killed his attacker, was acquitted on self-defense. Been sailing with Van der Meer for 6 years. Loyal, competent. A man who could navigate by stars alone and tie 20 different knots blindfolded. Had a wife in Lisbon he hadn't seen in 3 years. She was pregnant when he left. He didn't know if the child was his. Second mate Willem van Horn, 22 years old. Third son of a moderately wealthy merchant family in Leiden. Joined the VOC because his elder brothers would inherit everything, and he'd inherit nothing. Smart, maybe too smart. Kept a personal journal filled with mathematical calculations and astronomical observations. Dreamed of joining the Royal Society in London someday. Would argue navigation theory with Adriano late into the night. Van der Meer tolerated him because his calculations were always correct. Bosun Gerrit de Vries, Frisian, 35. Built like a barrel with arms like anchor chains. Could lift a full water cask by himself. Had sailed since he was 12. Knew every rope, every sail, every sound a ship makes when it's healthy, and every sound it makes before it breaks apart. Quiet man. Spoke maybe 10 words a day. But when Gerrit gave an order, men obeyed instantly because they knew it'd keep them alive. Chaplain Peter Dorgelo, 38. Seminary trained in Utrecht. Took the VOC posting to escape debts, specifically gambling debts, to some very dangerous men who'd promised to break his hands if he didn't pay. His sermons were adequate. His faith was questionable, but he could read and write, which made him valuable for maintaining the ship's official log in addition to Van der Meer's personal journal. Drank too much. Prayed too little. But he was kind to the cabin boys, which counted for something. Ship's cook Henrik Janssen, 41. Lost 3 fingers on his left hand to frostbite during a winter crossing of the Baltic 12 years earlier. Could still bone a fish faster than any man aboard. Made hardtack almost edible through some alchemy of spices and persistence. Had a daughter in Amsterdam. He sent money to through VOC channels. Never saw her. She'd been 4 when he left. She was 9 now. He carried a miniature portrait of her painted on ivory. Looked at it every night before sleep. Carpenter Martin Klump, 52, the oldest man aboard. Hands permanently stained with pitch and wood dust. Could repair hull damage in the middle of a storm. Could shape a replacement mast from raw timber using just an adze and patience. taught half the crew their knots and splices, was planning to retire after this voyage, had enough saved to buy a small cottage in Zealand, wanted to die on land, didn't. Surgeon Thomas Hendrick, not really a surgeon, more of a barber who'd read some medical texts and wasn't squeamish about blood. 30 years old, did his best with the tools available: amputation saws, cautery irons, opium for pain when they had it. Most men survived his treatments. Some didn't. He felt guilty about those. Kept a ledger of the men he'd lost. 43 names. Would add 46 more, in a way, though he'd never write them down. And then there were the ordinary sailors, the able seamen and landsmen, men whose names appear in the ship's register, but whose stories we don't know. Dutchmen, Germans, Scandinavians, a few Portuguese, 1 Irishman, 2 from Scotland. Young men seeking fortune, old men with nowhere else to go, men escaping debt, crime, unhappy marriages, boredom, poverty, or just the grinding monotony of life on land. They signed contracts in blood-red ink, almost literally. The official VOC contracts used a reddish ink that looked like diluted blood, and they boarded the Geese Reader with their sea bags and their hopes and their private fears. 47 men total, 47 futures, 47 possible lives that would never happen. The cargo was valuable, even by VOC standards. 43 chests of silver guilders payment for goods purchased in Batavia, being returned to Amsterdam for accounting. 12 tons of black pepper in sealed barrels. 4 tons of nutmeg. Half a ton of cloves worth more than gold by weight. 200 pieces of Chinese porcelain packed in rice straw. Bolts of silk, camphor, indigo, sandalwood. The total value was approximately 230,000 guilders. Enough money to buy a small fleet of ships. Enough money to make Van der Meer's career. Enough money that he'd do anything, ignore any warning, dismiss any danger to deliver it on schedule. The first week was unremarkable. Good winds out of the northeast. The Java Sea was calm. They made excellent time passing through the Sunda Strait and into the open Indian Ocean. Van der Meer was pleased. His log entries from those first days are brief and optimistic. Fair wind, good progress. Crew performing adequately. Expect to round the Cape ahead of schedule. The sea was busy that year. They passed numerous other vessels, Dutch, English, Portuguese, even a Chinese junk far from its usual waters. Ships saluted each other with flag signals or cannon fire. Exchanged news when close enough. No one reported anything unusual. The Indian Ocean was behaving as the Indian Ocean should: vast, blue, indifferent, but navigable, predictable. That predictability ended on March 10th, day 8. The first sign was so subtle that only Adriano noticed. He was on morning watch, scanning the horizon out of habit, when he realized something was wrong with the water. Not the waves. There were no waves. The ocean had gone completely flat. Not calm. Flat, like a lake, like a mirror, like polished glass stretching to every horizon. There was still wind. The sails were full. The ship was moving at 5 knots, but the water itself didn't respond to the wind. No chop, no ripples. Just perfect, unnatural stillness. Adriano called Van der Meer to the deck. The captain emerged from his cabin, squinted at the water, shrugged. Dense layer of cold water beneath warm, he said. Creates unusual surface tension. I've seen it before off Madagascar. He hadn't. He was lying. But he couldn't afford to show doubt in front of the crew. Doubt spreads faster than plague on a ship. Doubt kills morale. Morale kills crews. By midday, the fish appeared. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Dead fish floating belly up in perfect, concentric circles around the ship. Multiple rings, like ripples frozen in time. The inner ring was perhaps 20 feet from the hull. The outer ring was 100 yards away. Each ring contained different species. Inner ring, small sardines and anchovies. Middle rings, larger fish tuna, bonito, mackerel. Outer ring, big predators, sharks, barracuda, even a marlin with its distinctive spear nose pointing skyward. None showed signs of injury. No bites, no nets marks, no visible disease. They were just dead. Eyes clouded white, mouths open, perfectly arranged in geometric precision. Henrik, the cook, wanted to harvest some of the fresh ones for dinner. Van der Meer forbade it. We don't eat fish we didn't catch ourselves. Could be poison in the water. Wise decision, though he didn't know how wise. Thomas Hendrik, ever the scientist despite his limited training, lowered a bucket and drew up a sample of seawater, examined it, smelled it, even tasted a tiny drop, then spat it out immediately. Salt content normal, he reported. But there's something else. Tastes like ... iron? Rust? No, more like blood. Old blood. Dried blood. The water around the Geestreader tasted like blood. Willem van Horn took depth soundings. The water was deep here. His weighted line ran out 200 fathoms without hitting bottom. 1,200 feet of open ocean beneath them. But the line came back up stained. Dark stains. When he smelled the wet rope, he recoiled. It smells like rot, he said. Like something dead down there. Something big. Van der Meer ordered the stained rope cut away and thrown overboard. Ordered the crew to stop taking soundings. Ordered everyone to stop talking about the water. We sail through, he announced. Whatever phenomenon this is, we sail through it. We maintain course and schedule. That night, Martin Klomp, the old carpenter, came to Adriano in confidence. I've been at sea 38 years, he said. I've seen storms that tore ships in half. I've seen calms that lasted 30 days. I've seen waterspouts and whirlpools and waves tall as churches. I've never seen this. The sea doesn't make perfect circles. Nature doesn't do perfect circles. Adriano had no answer for him. The circles of dead fish followed them for 3 days. Every morning, new circles. Always centered on the ship. Always perfect. As if something beneath was marking territory. As if something was saying, I see you. I know you're here. You're mine. On day 10 March 12th, the compass went mad. Willem noticed it first during his morning navigation routine. The compass was spinning. Not wildly, not erratically, deliberately. 3 full rotations clockwise. Then it would stop. Remain perfectly still for exactly 7 seconds, he counted. Then spin 3 rotations counterclockwise. Then stop for 7 seconds. Then repeat. Over and over. Like a clock, like a heartbeat. He called Adriano. They watched it together. Get another compass, Adriano said. Willem retrieved the spare from Van der Meer's cabin, placed it beside the first. Both did the identical dance. 3 rotations clockwise. 7 seconds pause. 3 rotations counter. 7 seconds. Perfect synchronization. Van der Meer was summoned. He stared at the compasses for a full minute. Then he opened his own pocket compass. Same behavior. He had 2 more compasses brought from storage. The ship carried 5 total. All 5 performed the same ritual. 3 and 7. 3 and 7. 3 and 7. Magnetic anomaly, Van der Meer declared. We're passing over an iron deposit on the seabed, large enough to distort the magnetic field. We'll navigate by sun and stars until we're clear. He said this with absolute confidence. He was also absolutely wrong. There's no iron deposit on Earth large enough to make 5 compasses move in perfect, synchronized choreography. And even if there were, it wouldn't explain what came next. Because as the compasses spun, the crew began to hear things. Music. Faint. Distant. Like someone playing a fiddle very far away. But there were no other ships in sight. The ocean was empty in every direction. Yet the music continued. A melody none of them recognized, not a sea shanty, not a folk song. Something older, something that made the back of your neck prickle, something that sounded like a lullaby and a funeral dirge simultaneously. Peter Dorgelot, the chaplain, tried to lead evening prayers. He opened his Bible, the Bible he'd had since seminary, the Bible he'd read from 1,000 times. He opened it to Psalm 107, the sailor's song, the one about God's deliverance from the sea. The pages were blank, every single page. He flipped through the entire book, blank parchment. He could feel the ink under his fingertips, could see the indentations where pen had pressed hard, but his eyes registered nothing. Just cream-colored pages, unused, virgin. He tried another Bible. The ship carried 3, all blank. He tried the ship's log. The pages they hadn't written on yet were fine, but every page with writing? Blank. The ink was there, you could touch it, feel it, smell it, but it was invisible. As if language itself had stopped working, as if words had lost their meaning. Peter didn't lead prayers that night. He went to his hammock and drank rum until he passed out. When Henrik checked on him later, he was crying in his sleep, mumbling about the erasure, and we're being removed. Day 11 brought the shadow. Jacob de Witt was on watch. Early afternoon, sun almost directly overhead, perfect visibility, sea still flat as glass. He was standing at the port rail, scanning the horizon more out of boredom than duty. Then he looked down. There was a ship beneath them, not a reflection. A ship, sailing upside down, keel to keel with the Geest Reader, perhaps 50 feet underwater. He could see it clearly through the transparent water, every detail. It was the same size as their ship, the same configuration. 2 masts, the same rigging. For a moment, Jacob thought it was a reflection, but the sun angle was wrong. And reflections don't have depth, don't have solidity. This thing was there, moving in perfect synchronization with their ship. When the Geest Rider turned slightly to catch better wind, the shadow ship turned. When a sail was adjusted above, the corresponding sail was adjusted below. Jacob called for others. 3 men came to look, then 5, then 10. They all saw it. An impossible vessel sailing an impossible course through water, mirroring their every movement with unnatural precision. Jarrett, the bosun, had an idea. He dropped a weighted rope over the side, not to take soundings, but to see if it would hit the shadow ship. The rope sank, passed through where the masts should be, passed through where the deck should be, as if the ship wasn't physical, wasn't solid, was just an image, a projection. But projections don't move independently, don't adjust their sails, don't have crews. Because they saw the crew, saw figures moving on the shadow ship's deck, figures that looked like men but moved too smoothly, too precisely, moving through their routines with mechanical perfection. And when one of the Geest Reader's crew members would move across their deck, a corresponding figure would move across the shadow deck below, mirroring, copying, learning. Van der Meer refused to look at it, refused to acknowledge it. Optical phenomenon, he said. Light refraction through stratified water layers. You're seeing a reflection distorted by salinity gradients. No one believed him. More importantly, he didn't believe himself. His hands shook when he wrote the day's log entry. His handwriting, usually precise and controlled, was unsteady. The entry read, "Weather fair. Progress adequate. No incidents of note." He was lying. The log was lying. Everything was a lie now. That night, one of the cabin boys, a 14-year-old named Peter, same name as the chaplain, which caused endless confusion, woke up screaming. He'd had a nightmare. In the nightmare, he said, he'd been standing on the deck and felt himself being pulled downward, not falling, being pulled. And when he looked down, He saw himself on the shadow ship looking up, both versions of himself reaching toward each other, getting closer. And when their hands touched, they'd merged, became one person existing in two places. Then he'd started to split, to separate, each half being drawn toward one ship, being torn apart between above and below, living and drowned, real and reflection. Henrik the cook gave him rum to calm him down. The boy wouldn't sleep for the rest of the voyage. None of them would sleep well, but the boy wouldn't sleep at all. Just stood on deck, staring at the water, waiting for his reflection to move wrong. Day 12. The dead reckoning put them approximately 1,200 nautical miles from the Cape of Good Hope, making good time despite the strangeness. Van der Meer was adamant they maintain schedule. His career depended on it, his reputation, his pride. The VOC didn't forgive delays, didn't accept excuses. Ships that came in late saw their captains removed. Blacklisted, left to find work on merchant vessels paying a fraction of VOC rates. So Van der Meer ignored the signs, ignored the warnings, ignored the terror building in his crew like pressure in a sealed barrel. He was going to deliver this cargo on time, even if he had to sail through hell itself. He was about to. The crew began making charms. You couldn't stop them. Men who'd been loyal, rational, obedient suddenly became superstitious. They braided horsehair into circles and hung them in their sleeping spaces, carved protection symbols into the ship's wood ancient symbols, pre-Christian symbols that shouldn't have been known to Dutch sailors, but somehow were. Circles, spirals, triangles within triangles. They made patterns from salt, sprinkling it in lines across doorways. Tied iron nails into their hair, into their belts, into their boots. Iron to ward off spirits, salt to purify, symbols to protect. Van der Meer saw this, flew into a rage. He'd always forbidden superstition aboard his ship. He ordered the symbols scrub it away, ordered the salt thrown overboard, ordered the iron confiscated. When a sailor named Franz refused to remove his protective necklace, Van der Meer had him flogged, 15 lashes, tied to the mainmast, stripped to the waist. The cat o' nine tails came down again and again, tearing skin, drawing blood. Franz didn't scream, didn't beg, just stared at Van der Meer with eyes that had already seen the future. After the 15th stroke, Franz was cut down. He stood, gathered his bloody shirt, turned to Van der Meer and said very quietly, "You'll beg it to take you when the time comes. You'll beg." Van der Meer struck him across the face, knocked him down. Franz laughed, blood on his teeth. "It's already here," he said. "We're already in it. We've been in it since the fish, since before the fish. We were in it when we left Batavia. We were chosen." Van der Meer had him put in the brigade, tiny storage space Spelaudix, barely large enough to lie down in, locked him in darkness. Franz went quietly. As the door closed, they heard him singing. That same melody they'd been hearing from nowhere. The lullaby. He knew the words. Sang them in Dutch, but also in languages nobody recognized. His voice echoed up through the deck planking. Men crossed themselves, made signs against evil. Even Adriano, the pragmatic Portuguese, touched the crucifix he wore beneath his shirt. Day 13. Morning. The shadow ship was still beneath them, but something had changed. It was rising. Not quickly, just fractionally. Each hour, it was perhaps a foot closer to the surface. By noon, you could almost read the name painted on its hull. Almost. The letters seemed to shift, rearrange themselves, as if the ship had many names, as if it was every ship that had ever been lost. And the water was getting colder, not air temperature that remained tropical, but the sea itself. When men touched it, checking ropes or nets, they jerked their hands back. It was ice cold. Arctic cold. Impossible cold for these latitudes. Thomas Hendrick measured it with a thermometer. 34 degrees. 2 degrees above freezing. In the middle of the Indian Ocean. In March, the tropical Indian Ocean should be 80 degrees. This was oceanographic impossibility. Willem did calculations. Checked his charts. Checked and rechecked their position. We're where we should be, he told Adriano. According to every measurement, every calculation, we're exactly on course. But the water temperature says we're in the North Atlantic, near Greenland. We can't be both places. Maybe we're in neither, Adriano said quietly. Maybe we're somewhere else entirely. Willem didn't argue. That afternoon, they saw it, far ahead, on the horizon. At first, they thought it was a squall line, a wall of weather, but it didn't move like weather, didn't dissipate like weather. It held its shape, a vertical wall stretching from sea to sky, 300 meters tall, 500 meters, a kilometer. Impossible to judge distance or scale because it defied perspective. And it was blue, not the blue of sky or sea. Electric blue, cobalt, Prussian blue, the blue of deep ocean trenches where no light penetrates, the blue of suffocation, the blue of drowning, a blue so saturated it almost hurt to look at, and it glowed, phosphorescent, luminescent, casting its own light despite the midday sun being directly overhead. Van der Meer stared at it through his spyglass for 10 full minutes, finally lowered the glass, said nothing. His face had gone pale. His jaw was tight. He went to his cabin, locked the door, didn't emerge for 3 hours. When he did, he'd made his decision. They were going through. Adriano argued. Captain, we turn south. We add 2 weeks to the voyage. We live. And what do I tell the company? That we were delayed by unusual fog? Tell them we were delayed by dangerous weather conditions. Tell them we prioritized the safety of the cargo. They'll demote me, reassign me to a lesser ship. This is my last chance for a big commission. I'm 43 years old. I need this. You won't spend any commission if you're dead. Van der Meer pulled his pistol, aimed it at Adriano's chest. We maintain course. We maintain schedule. Any man who argues will be shot where he stands. The company does not accept excuses, and neither do I. Adriano looked at the pistol, looked at Van der Meer's eyes, saw madness there, ambition that had curdled into obsession. He nodded slowly, turned away, went to his station, began preparing the crew for whatever came next. The geese-reader sailed toward the blue wall at 5 knots. The wind held steady from the northeast. Perfect sailing weather. Perfect conditions. Perfectly wrong. As they approached, details became visible. The fog wasn't uniform. It had structure, texture, veins running through it like marble, patterns that almost looked like writing, symbols, characters from no known language. Or perhaps just pareidolia, the human brain's desperate attempt to find meaning in randomness. At half a mile distance, the wall began to change. The center started to part, opening, like a curtain, like a mouth, like a wound tearing itself wider, creating a corridor exactly as wide as the geese-reader. An entrance, an invitation, a throat. Van der Meer laughed. Actually laughed. You see? Providence. The sea itself makes way for men of determination. He was exactly wrong. This wasn't Providence. This was a trap. This was the membrane opening to swallow them whole. This was the mouth of something so large, so vast, so ancient that it didn't even register humans as food. We were bacteria, plankton, accidentally consumed while feeding on something much larger. But Van der Meer couldn't see it, wouldn't see it. His ego had blinded him completely. He ordered full sail. ordered the ship to maximum speed. He was going to sail through this corridor with flags flying and pride intact, and his cargo delivered on schedule. He was going to prove that nothing in nature could stop a determined man. At 2 p.m., ship's bell striking twice, the Geist Freighter crossed the threshold, and everything changed. The light changed first. That blue glow, it didn't illuminate. It obscured. It was light that created darkness. You could see the man standing next to you, but 10 feet away, nothing. Just blue luminescence and the sense of walls very, very close. The air changed, became thick, became heavy. Each breath was like inhaling water. Not drowning, not yet, but breathing wasn't effortless anymore. You had to work for it. Pull the air into your lungs with conscious effort. The temperature plummeted, from tropical warmth to Arctic cold in seconds. Men's breath became visible. Frost formed on the rigging, on the deck, on exposed skin. Yet they weren't cold. The air felt cold, but their bodies didn't respond appropriately. No shivering, no goosebumps. As if their nervous systems couldn't process what was happening. And the smell. God, the smell. Iron, copper, blood, but also flowers, specifically roses. Sweet, cloying, funereal. The smell of flowers left on graves for months. Roses rotting in their vases. Beauty corrupted into decay. The two scents mixed in your nose, in your throat, coating your tongue. You couldn't escape it. Couldn't breathe without tasting it. Then came the sounds. Voices. Human voices. Dozens. Hundreds. Coming from everywhere and nowhere. Speaking Dutch, Portuguese, English, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, languages nobody could identify. Some were shouting. Some were crying. Some were singing that lullaby. That impossible lullaby they'd been hearing for days. Now sung by 1,000 throats. And mixed in with the voices were other sounds. Ships creaking. Ropes straining. Waves crashing, though the water around them remained flat as glass. Cannon fire. Distant. Artillery exchanges from battles fought decades or centuries ago. The sound of men drowning. That particular choking, gasping, gurgling sound of lungs filling with water. Thousands of men drowning. All at once, forever. Van der Meer tried to shout orders. His mouth moved, his throat strained, but no sound came out. Or rather, sound came out, but it arrived somewhere else. Adriano, standing 20 feet away, heard Van der Meer's voice behind him, spun around. Nobody there, just the blue fog. Then the same command came from above, from below, from inside the wood itself. Words had become unmoored from their sources. The ship's bell began ringing, continuously, frantically, but nobody was pulling the rope. The bell rang itself. Each chime came from a different direction. Port, starboard, from the mast, from underwater, from inside men's skulls. The sound of the bell echoing through bone. Jarrett grabbed the ship's wheel, tried to turn. The wheel turned, smoothly, easily, but the rudder didn't respond. Yet the ship changed course, gently, deliberately, as if hands much larger than human were guiding it from outside, guiding it deeper. Jarrett let go of the wheel in terror. The wheel kept turning. 1 full rotation, 2, 3 rotations clockwise. Then it stopped. 7 seconds of perfect stillness. Then 3 rotations counterclockwise. The ship was mimicking the compasses. The compasses had been mimicking the ship. It was a loop, a cycle, a ritual being taught and repeated. That's when men started to disappear. Jacob de Witt, the one who'd first seen the shadow ship, was standing at the port rail. Adriano was looking directly at him. Jacob turned his head to say something, and between the beginning and end of that head turn, he ceased to exist. Not fell, not vanished in a flash, just ... stopped being, smoothly, as if someone had erased him. His boots remained on the deck. His hat fell 2 seconds later where his head should have been. But Jakob was gone. Adriano ran to the spot, looked over the rail. No splash, no body in the water. Just the flat, cold sea reflecting that terrible blue glow. He turned back to call for help, saw Jakob's face in the fog. Just the face, floating, disembodied, 10 feet away. Mouth open in a silent scream, eyes wide, fully aware, fully conscious, fully present. But just the face, no neck, no body. Just a face suspended in blue vapor. Adriano reached toward it, his hand passed through. The face rippled like water, then dissolved, gone. 5 minutes later, someone saw Jakob again, walking on the underside of the fog ceiling, walking upside down, as if gravity had inverted for him alone. He was moving slowly, deliberately, inspecting something they couldn't see. Then he walked out of sight into the blue, gone again. Or still gone, or never gone. It was impossible to tell. Frans the man van der Meer had flogged, and locked in the brig began laughing. They could hear him through the deck. Hysterical, broken laughter. Then the laughing stopped. Silence. Adriano went below to check on him. The brig door was still locked. But Frans was gone. His clothes were there, neatly folded, as if he'd carefully undressed before vanishing. But the door was locked from the outside. No way to escape. Yet he was gone. On the clothes, written in what looked like blood, synchronized. More men disappeared, not all at once. One every few minutes. Random, no pattern. Young and old. Experienced and novice. Believer and skeptic. The disappearances showed no logic, no mercy, no preference. Peter Dorgelot, the chaplain, tried to pray, fell to his knees on the deck, clasped his hands, opened his mouth to recite the Lord's Prayer. His voice came out backward, perfect phonetic reversal. Nima. Live morphsu reviled, ... The words were correct, but inverted, as if time was running backward through his throat, while running forward through the rest of him. He tried again. Same result. He began to cry. Tears ran up his face, falling upward from his chin to his eyes. Gravity was negotiable here, optional, applied inconsistently. Henrik the cook saw himself, walked out of the galley to find himself standing at the mainmast. Identical, same scars, same missing fingers, same worn apron. The other Henrik was coiling rope, moving efficiently, mechanically. The original Henrik approached. 5 meters away. 4, 3. Both versions began to feel something. A pull, a magnetism, like iron filings to a lodestone. 2 meters. They were reaching for each other now, not voluntarily. Their arms moved on their own, drawn together, 1 meter. They could see each other's eyes, see the terror, see the understanding. They were going to merge, become one, or split, become fragments. Their fingertips touched. The sensation was indescribable. Imagine every nerve in your body firing at once. Imagine experiencing every moment of your life simultaneously. Birth and death and every second between happening now. All overlapping. All true. All real. Both Henriks screamed. Silent screaming. No sound. Just the agony of existence fracturing. Then they separated. Stumbled apart. But something had changed. Original Henrik looked at his hands. They were flickering, solid, transparent, solid, transparent, oscillating between states. He looked at the other Henrik. The copy was doing the same, flickering in exact synchronization. They'd become quantum, probabilistic, both existing and not existing, both real and unreal, Other Henrik turned and walked away. Walked into the blue fog, disappeared into it. Original Henrik remained, flickering, trapped between being and not being. He lasted another 20 minutes. Then he folded. That's the only way to describe it. His body folded along impossible axes. Origami made from flesh. Folded down and down and down until he was just a point. Then nothing. His clothes remained, neatly folded. His ivory portrait of his daughter lay on top, face down. When Adriano turned it over, the portrait had changed. The girl's face was now looking at something off to the side, something that terrified her. Her painted mouth was open in a scream, painted tears on painted cheeks. An image that had been static was now expressing emotion. Art had become alive. Life had become art. The boundaries were collapsing. Young Willem van Horn tried to understand. His scientific mind rebelled against what he was experiencing, but also tried desperately to quantify it. He pulled out his journal, tried to write observations. His hand moved. The pencil scratched across paper, but the words appeared on different pages. He'd write on page 20, and the text would appear on page 5. He'd write horizontally, and the words would arrange themselves in spirals. He kept trying, kept writing, filled his journal with notes that appeared randomly throughout the book. Future entries appearing before past ones, cause written after effect. His final coherent sentence, written across 12 different pages in fragments. Time is not broken here. Time is negotiable. We are experiencing duration non-linearly. We are living our deaths while dying our lives. We are becoming the fog. Then Willem saw something that broke him. Through the blue mist, he saw the Geestvader, not their ship. Another one, identical, sailing parallel to them. Same crew, same cargo, same everything. But that ship was also in the blue fog, also experiencing this. He could see the other Willem on that other deck, staring back at him. Then he saw another ship, and another. Dozens of Geestvaders, hundreds maybe, all sailing through blue fog, all trapped. All the same ship experiencing the same moment across infinite parallel possibilities. They were splitting, fragmenting. Every decision, every choice, every quantum possibility was creating a new version. And all versions were equally real. All trapped. All drowning in fog that wasn't fog at all, but something else. Something that existed in the spaces between moments. Something that fed on time itself. Willem laughed, high and broken. Then he exploded. Not violently. He just separated. Came apart into thousands of pieces that floated away like dandelion seeds. Each piece was still Willem, still conscious, still aware, but distributed. Scattered across space and time and possibility. His clothes drifted down empty. His journal fell open to a page that read, "We were never one. We were always fragments pretending to be whole." Jarrett, the massive Frisian bosun, tried to fight. You can't fight fog, can't punch it, can't wrestle it. But Jarrett tried anyway. He swung his fists at the blue mist, roared challenges at it. His voice came out as colors, red rage, blue despair. Each emotion had a visible frequency. His anger created ripples in the fog. His fear created holes. He was affecting it, or it was allowing him to think he was affecting it. Hard to tell the difference. Something reached back, through the blue. A limb, an appendage. Except it wasn't physical. It was conceptual. An idea of an arm. The thought of grasping made manifest. It wrapped around Garrett's leg. He felt it. Solid and not solid. There and not there. It pulled. Jarrett fell. Grabbed the rope. The rope held. The thing kept pulling. Garrett's body began to stretch. Not tearing. Stretching. Like taffy. Like clay. His leg extended 5 feet, 6, 7, while his torso remained normal size. His proportions were becoming impossible. Geometry was negotiable too, apparently. He screamed. His scream created fractals in the air. Beautiful patterns, recursive, self-similar at every scale. His agony had mathematical properties. The thing pulled harder. Garrett's other leg stretched, his arms, his neck. He was being drawn out, extended, transformed from a three-dimensional being into something one-dimensional. A line, a vector, a direction without volume. Then he snapped back like a released rubber band. His body compressed, squeezed, all that stretched flesh collapsing into a space too small. He folded, inverted, turned inside out. His internal organs became external. His skin became internal. But he didn't die. Couldn't die. Death was too simple, too final. This place didn't allow endings, just transformations, just endless becomings. Jarrett crawled across the deck, inside out, still conscious, still aware, still Jarrett, but also something that used to be Jarrett. Adriano tried to help him, touched his shoulder. Garrett's flesh was ice cold and burning hot simultaneously, both states true at once. Adriano pulled his hand back. His palm was marked, branded, with a symbol he didn't recognize. A spiral within a spiral within a spiral, going down forever. The brand glowed blue, then faded, but it was still there, still burning, still present even when invisible. Jarrett crawled to the rail, pulled himself up, looked at Adriano with eyes that had seen something incomprehensible, spoke one word, hungry. Then he rolled over the rail, fell toward the water, but didn't hit it, passed through the surface like it wasn't there, kept falling, down into blue water. There was also blue fog. There was also something else entirely, falling forever into depths that had no bottom. Thomas Hendrick, the surgeon, tried to help the remaining men, tried to apply medicine to madness. He had laudanum, opium tincture for pain. He administered doses. The men who took it didn't calm. They phased, shifted between states of consciousness, awake and asleep simultaneously, dreaming while standing, walking while unconscious. Their dreams began to manifest. One man dreamed of home. His dream became visible, projected into the fog. A small Dutch cottage. His wife in the doorway. She was calling his name. He walked toward her, into the fog, into his dream. The cottage faded. He faded with it, consumed by his own memories. Thomas realized the fog was reading them, scanning them, learning them. It was absorbing not just their bodies, but their minds, their histories, their identities. Everything that made them individuals was being cataloged, copied, stored. The fog was a library, an archive, a museum of souls. And they were being filed away, preserved forever, but never alive, never dead, just stored. Thomas tried to write medical observations. His hands wouldn't obey. They moved independently, writing things he didn't think, diagnoses for diseases that didn't exist, anatomies of impossible creatures, surgical procedures for removing organs humans didn't have. His knowledge was being accessed, copied, used for something beyond his comprehension. He was becoming a resource, data to be mined. He dropped his pen, looked at his hands. They were transparent now. He could see through them, see the bones, see the blood moving, see the fog flowing through his veins like it was replacing his blood. He was being infiltrated, colonized. The fog was moving into him, taking residence. He could feel it in his lungs, his heart, his brain. Feel it learning how to be human from the inside. Thomas screamed. His scream had weight. It fell to the deck with a thud, lay there like a solid object. His voice had become physical. He'd literally screamed out part of his existence. The scream object writhed on the deck, made sounds of its own, echoes of echoes. Then it dissolved into the blue, absorbed. Martin Klump, the old carpenter who'd wanted to die on land, sat against the mainmast. Didn't run, didn't fight, just sat. He was 52, had seen enough. He closed his eyes, waited. The fog approached him gently, almost tenderly, wrapped around him like a blanket. He didn't resist, let it in, let it fill him, let it learn him. His last thought was about his cottage in Zealand, the one he'd saved for, the retirement he'd earned. Then he wasn't Martin anymore, wasn't anyone, just fog in the shape of a man. The shape held for several seconds, then dispersed, gone. By this point, maybe 15 men remained. They'd huddled together in the center of the deck, held hands, formed a circle, as if human contact could protect them. It couldn't, but it gave them comfort in their final minutes. They sang sea shanties, old songs, Spanish ladies, drunken sailor, blow the man down, songs their grandfathers had sung, songs that connected them to something older than this fog, something real and human and comprehensible. But the songs came out wrong, the words inverted, the melodies twisted. What emerged from their throats wasn't music but anti-music, sound designed to unmake other sounds, silence made audible. They kept singing anyway. If they were going to die, or whatever was going to happen to them, they'd die as men, as sailors, together. Adriano was among them, still functioning, still trying to lead, still first mate even as reality collapsed. He looked around at the remaining crew, saw fear, saw acceptance, saw understanding. They all knew. None of them were leaving this fog. The best they could hope for was to stay themselves until the very end, to remain human as long as possible. He saw Van der Meer. The captain stood alone at the quarterdeck, staring at his hands. Van der Meer's hands were aging, rapidly, visibly, flesh tightening and loosening, veins bulging, liver spots appearing and fading. His hands were experiencing years in seconds, forward and backward, cycling through ages, young, old, middle-aged, ancient, infant, all stages of a human hand happening simultaneously. He was watching his own timeline collapse, watching his life become non-linear. Van der Meer looked up, saw Adriano watching him, opened his mouth to speak. Fog poured out, blue fog, thick, luminescent. It poured from his mouth, his nose, his ears, his eyes. He was becoming the fog, transforming into it from the inside out. His body was a container being filled with something that would replace him entirely. His final words were audible to everyone who remained, clear, undistorted, perfectly comprehensible. "It's breathing us," he said. "We're its air. We're what it inhales." Then he turned to vapor. Complete transformation. His uniform collapsed empty to the deck. His boots stood upright, still shaped like they contained feet. His hat rolled twice, then stopped. Inside the hat, they found his brain, still intact, still pulsing, still alive, conscious, aware, thinking thoughts, but no longer connected to a body, just a brain, existing, processing, understanding its situation. Trapped, someone kicked the hat overboard. Couldn't stand looking at it. The brain went into the water, sank slowly, still pulsing, still alive, still aware, drowning but not dying, just continuing, forever. The remaining men began to fade. Not disappear, fade, like old photographs exposed to too much sun. Their edges went first, becoming fuzzy, indistinct. Then the fading moved inward, features blurring, details simplifying. They were being erased, Gently, slowly, systematically, reduced to sketches, then to outlines, then to suggestions, then to nothing. But they were still there, still present, just invisible, transparent, existing without appearance. You could hear them breathing, hear them moving, but couldn't see them. They'd become ghosts in their own bodies, spirits trapped in flesh that had lost physicality. One by one, the breathing sounds stopped. Not death, something else. Translation, maybe. Movement from one state to another, from material to immaterial, from real to remembered, from being to having been. The last man conscious was young Willem van Horn, the 22-year-old navigator, the smart one, the one who'd wanted to join the Royal Society. He had the presence of mind to grab the ship's log, grip the pencil, his final entry written in a hand that grew fainter with each word. We are not drowning. We are being absorbed. The fog is not around us. We are inside something. Inside its digestive system, maybe, or its memory, or its dream. I don't think it's alive as we understand life. I think it's something else. Something that exists in the gaps, between seconds, between thoughts, between heartbeats. We fell through one of those gaps. We fell between moments, and we can't climb back. The ship is still moving. I can feel it. But I don't think we're moving through space. We're moving through time, experiencing every moment of the voyage simultaneously. Departure and arrival, and every second between happening now. All of it true. All of it real. All of it endless. I'm becoming transparent. I can see my bones, see the fog in my blood, see my heart pumping blue light. I'm being cataloged, indexed, filed away in some incomprehensible library. My memories are being read, copied, stored. I'll exist here forever as information, as data, as a record of what I was, but no longer am. I think this is what happens in the spaces between, in the gaps of reality. There are things there, things that don't need bodies, things that air information, air consciousness without form. And we stumbled into their territory, into their dimension, into their now. We're not dying. We're being converted, turned into something compatible with this place, something that can exist in gaps, in absences. In the negative spaces of reality, I can see the others, all of them, even the ones who disappeared first. They're here, all here, still present, still aware. We're all becoming the same thing, merging, losing individuality, becoming a collective, a we instead of an I, a plurality instead of a singular. It doesn't hurt anymore. That's the strangest thing. It should hurt. This should be agony. But it's not. It's almost peaceful. Like sinking into deep water, like falling asleep, like a pencil fell, clattered to the deck. Willem stood there for another moment, transparent, barely visible, a ghost of himself. Then he wasn't there at all, just gone, absorbed, converted, changed into something that could live, or whatever equivalent existed in the blue. The Geese Reader sailed on, empty now, no crew, no movement, just a ghost ship moving through ghost waters under ghost sails. The blue fog began to thin, not suddenly, gradually. Over hours or days or years' time had lost meaning. The walls of the corridor started to fade. The oppressive closeness lifted. The blue light dimmed. And then the ship was through. Back in normal ocean, normal air, normal light. The sun was exactly where it had been when they entered. Still afternoon, still 2:03 p.m. No time had passed, or all time had passed, or time had become irrelevant. The ship sailed on, empty, perfect, maintained by invisible hands. guided by absent navigators. Moving at a steady 5 knots toward a destination it would never reach because arrival requires presence, and the Geese Reader was now a ship without anyone present. Just a vessel, a container, a shell. For 33 years, the ship sailed, or existed, or persisted. For 33 years, it occupied space in the ocean without occupying time. It was there, but not there. Real, but not real. A quantum vessel existing in superposition between destroyed and intact. On August 17, 1794, a British merchant ship named the Canterbury Rose spotted it off the coast of Madagascar. Captain Reginald Thorne, an experienced officer of His Majesty's merchant fleet, approached cautiously. The ship appeared pristine. Too pristine. No weathering, no barnacles, no wear. As if it had been built yesterday. But the design was decades old. Dutch VOC markings. A ship from another era. Thorne hailed it. No response. No movement, no flags. No signs of life. He ordered a boarding party. 4 men rowed across in a longboat, climbed aboard. This is their testimony, transcribed from multiple sources and cross-referenced for accuracy. The deck was clean, spotless, almost surgical in its cleanliness. Ropes coiled perfectly, sails furled with expert precision. Everything stowed, everything organized, everything correct. But no one aboard. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle, just absence. And clothes. 47 complete sets of clothing, arranged in neat rows across the deck. Each outfit laid out precisely. Shirt, trousers, boots standing upright, hat placed where a head would be, gloves positioned like hands. Each set formed a perfect human silhouette, as if 47 men had been carefully removed from their clothes, or had evaporated, or had been edited out of reality. Beside each clothing set, a pocket watch, 47 identical pocket watches, all ticking, all functional, all showing 2:03 p.m. But here's what made the boarding party flee back to their ship. The watches were stuck, second hands moving, gears turning, springs tensing and releasing, all the mechanisms working, but the time never changed. Perpetually 2:03 p.m. The watches were functioning normally while trapped in a specific moment, both alive and dead, both moving and still. The British sailors touched nothing, took nothing, just documented what they saw and left quickly. Back on the Canterbury Rose, they reported to Thorne. He made the decision to examine the ship himself, took 2 officers, rowed over, boarded. The captain's cabin was immaculate. Vandermeer's quarters exactly as he'd left them, or as he'd maintained them in some eternal present. The logbook sat on the desk, open, the last official entry, March 14th, 1761. Weather clear, course steady, all normal. But underneath that entry, written in different handwriting, in fresh ink that gleamed wet, we are still here. We are always here. 2:03 p.m. forever. Thorne compared the handwriting to the earlier entries, matched it against the crew manifest they found in a drawer. The handwriting belonged to no one who'd sailed on the Geest Freighter. Wasn't Vandermeer's. Wasn't the chaplains who'd kept some log entries. Wasn't any crew members. The handwriting was new, original, unique, as if something had learned to write just to leave this message. In the galley, 47 place settings, 47 bowls of stew, still steaming. After 33 years, Thorne touched a bowl. Burning hot? Actually hot. He could feel heat radiating from it. One of his officers lifted a spoon, brought it close to his face. The stew smelled wrong. Smelled like iron, like blood, like blue light given scent. Like the ocean floor where things decompose in cold and darkness and pressure, like death fermenting. Thorn knocked the spoon away. We touch nothing. We take nothing. In the hold, the cargo. Every chest of silver. Every barrel of spices. Intact, perfect, valuable. A fortune waiting to be claimed. But none of them would claim it. Couldn't. The ship felt wrong in a way that transcended logic. In a way that spoke directly to the primitive part of the brain that knows danger before understanding it. They left. Rowed back to the Canterbury Rose. Thorn made his report to the owners. The owners contacted the Dutch East India Company. The VOC, that corporation that worshipped profit above all else, made an unprecedented decision. Destroy the ship. Don't salvage it. Don't sell it. Don't repurpose it. Destroy it completely. They paid the British Royal Navy. Paid in gold. Paid enough to make admirals wealthy. In exchange for one service, sink the Geese Reader. Blow it apart. Reduce it to splinters and let the ocean have it. A frigate was dispatched. Ems Relentless. Appropriate name. A used chain shot. Cannonballs connected by chains that spin when fired, designed to tear through rigging and shred hulls. They fired 23 rounds. Hit the Geese Reader from stem to stern. The ship came apart. Wood exploding. Masts falling. The hull breaching. It sank quickly. Minutes. Gone. But as it went down, every man aboard the Relentless swore they heard singing. 47 voices in perfect harmony. A lullaby. In Dutch, but also in languages that didn't sound human. Languages made of water sounds and wind sounds, and the creaking of wood under pressure. The singing continued, even after the ship disappeared beneath the surface. Continued as bubbles rose and debris floated, and the ocean closed over the grave. The singing stopped only when the Geest Raider hit bottom. 3,000 feet down. In darkness so complete that light is just a memory. In pressure that would crush a man to paste in seconds. The ship settled into mud, into sediment, into the layers where things are buried and forgotten, but not destroyed. Never destroyed, because the Geest Raider still sails. Modern ships see it, report it. Radar contacts that appear and vanish. Always in the same location where the British sank it. Always moving in a perfect circle. Always between 2 p.m. and 2:03 p.m. Doesn't matter what time zone. Doesn't matter what date. At that specific ship time, that 3-minute window, it manifests. Appears on instruments, on radar, on sonar. A solid contact. A physical object. Then gone. And if you're in those waters during that window, if you're listening on the right frequencies, you'll hear them. 47 voices, still singing that lullaby. The transmission is crystal clear. No static. No degradation. Perfect audio quality. As if they're broadcasting from the next room rather than from 3,000 feet underwater. Or from 33 years ago. Or from outside time entirely. The International Maritime Organization has a classified file on it. Incident reports from dozens of vessels. Commercial ships, naval vessels, research submarines. All reporting the same phenomenon. All describing the same impossible ship. Same singing. Same 3-minute window. A file is marked. Unexplained natural phenomenon. Filed under acoustic anomaly. Bureaucratic language to describe something that defies language. 3 years ago, the cargo ship Nordic Star investigated. Captain Per Holmgren, Danish, 48 years old, 20 years at sea. Rational man, skeptical, heard the reports, decided to see for himself, positioned his ship at the coordinates, waited for 2 p.m. The radar contact appeared. Solid return, moving. Holmgren altered course to intercept. Got within visual range. Saw it. Saw the Geest Raider. Sails full. Moving against the wind. Against the current. Against every law of physics. Moving in its eternal circle. Its infinite routine. He grabbed binoculars, focused on the deck, saw figures, 47 men, standing in neat rows, all facing the same direction, all perfectly still, all wearing 18th century Dutch maritime uniforms. But their faces weren't right, weren't stable. They were shifting, oscillating, aging and youthing, solid and transparent, there and not there, existing and not existing in rapid alternation, quantum faces, probability faces, faces that were all possible versions of themselves simultaneously. Holmgren tried to photograph them. His camera died. Every battery-powered device on his ship died. Not drained, dead, permanently damaged, circuits melted, ships fried. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in navigation equipment destroyed in an instant. His radio crackled once before going silent. One word came through, clear, unmistakable. In Dutch, Binnenkort, soon. Holmgren retired the next day, quit the sea, moved to Oslo, works in a hardware store, refuses to discuss what he saw, refuses to go near water, showers only, never baths, can't stand being surrounded by water, says when he closes his eyes in a bathtub, he sees blue fog, sees faces in the blue, sees 47 men inviting him to join them, to complete the number, to make it 48, because that's the thing, sailor. That's what should keep you awake at night. The 47 aren't just trapped. They're waiting. They're collecting. They're growing. Every ship that gets too close, every sailor who investigates, every person who stays in those waters during that 3-minute window, they're all candidates, all potential additions, all future members of a crew that exists outside time. The blue fog is still seen. Once or twice a year, ships report it. Always the same description. Always the same vertical wall. Always the same impossible color. The reports get filed, get archived, get forgotten, except by sailors, old sailors. The ones who know, the ones who've heard the stories and believe them, because the sea has shown them enough impossibilities that one more doesn't seem unlikely. They warn each other. If you see blue fog, you turn around immediately. No investigation, no curiosity, no bravery, just survival. You reverse course and you add time to your journey and you live, because the alternative is becoming information, becoming data stored in a library you can't escape, becoming consciousness without body, memory without present, existence without end. Norwegian research vessel Han Mosby encountered it 4 months ago. They were studying deep ocean currents near Madagascar. The fog appeared 500 meters off starboard. They had every sensor running, every instrument active. This is what the data showed. Inside the fog, time moved differently. Chronometers synchronized to atomic clocks measured a 3-second discrepancy per minute. Time was running slower in there, or faster. The data was contradictory, as if time inside the fog was moving in multiple directions, simultaneously. Forward, backward, sideways, directions that don't exist in normal spacetime. Temperature readings were impossible. Sensors showed tropical warmth and Arctic cold simultaneously. Both true, both real, both measured. Salinity readings fluctuated wildly. The water was fresh, was salt, was something that wasn't water at all. Pressure readings made no sense. Atmospheric pressure and deep ocean pressure in the same location. The fog existed in multiple environments simultaneously. They didn't enter it. Captain Olafsson, experienced polar researcher, issued immediate retreat orders. When asked why, he wrote in his report, "The fog smelled wrong." Pressed to elaborate in the classified debriefing, he said it smelled like metal and flowers, specifically roses, long dead roses, roses from a grave. mixed with the smell of rust and old blood and something else, something that had no name, the smell of the spaces between, the smell of nothing trying to become something. The research was classified immediately. The crew signed non-disclosure agreements. The ship's logs were confiscated. Officially, nothing happened. Unofficially, 6 crew members quit polar research, transferred to jobs on land, refused to sail again. Can't explain why. Just know they won't go back to the ocean. Won't risk encountering that blue again. Here's what I know to be true, sailor. Here's what I've learned in 50 years at sea. 50 years of watching the water and listening to the stories and paying attention to the things that don't make sense. The ocean is not empty. It's occupied. There are territories down there, zones, regions, dimensions, places that exist in the gaps of our reality, places that follow different rules, different physics, different logics. And sometimes those places intersect with ours. Sometimes the membrane thins. Sometimes a door opens. The blue fog is one of those doors. Or maybe it's the door. The primary entrance. The main aperture between our world and theirs. Between linear time and quantum time. Between being and information. Between life and whatever comes after life when death isn't available. The 47 men of the Geest Raider walked through that door on March 14, 1761. At 2:03 p.m., they walked through because their captain's ego wouldn't allow retreat. Because pride and greed and schedule mattered more than warning signs. Because men in power rarely suffer the full consequences of their decisions until they do. And those 47 are still there, still in that door, still in that moment, still being absorbed, still being converted, still experiencing the 3 minutes between 2 o'clock and 2:03 p.m. on an endless loop. Except it's not a loop. A loop implies returning to the beginning. This is something else. This is existing in a single moment that stretches infinitely in all directions. A moment that contains everything. That is everything. That will always be the only thing. But they're not alone. That's the crucial detail. That's the warning. They're not the only ones in the blue. The fog has been taking ships for centuries. Millennia, maybe. Ramong galleys, Viking longboats, Chinese junks, Phoenician traders, Portuguese caravels, Spanish galleons, British frigates, modern cargo ships. How many? How many thousands of sailors exist in that space between moments? All of them still there. All of them still conscious. All of them still aware. Not dead, not alive, just present. Eternally present in a moment that never ends and never began. And they're merging, combining, losing individuality, becoming a collective consciousness, a hive mind, a plurality that used to be singulars. What does that collective want? Does it want anything? Can something that exists outside normal time have wants, have desires, have motivations? Or is it just ... there, just existing, just being? A phenomenon, a condition, a state of reality rather than an entity within reality. I don't know. Nobody knows. But I'll tell you what I think. I think it's hungry. Not for food, not for energy, for information, for consciousness, for experience. It's collecting us, storing us, building a library of every human who ever fell through. Every memory, every thought, every sensation, every moment of every life preserved forever in quantum amber, trapped but intact, dead but not dead, present but not present. Why? Maybe there is no why. Maybe it's just what it does, what it is. A hole in reality that consumes things, can stores them, and keeps them forever. Not malicious, not benevolent, just functional. An aspect of existence we don't understand and probably can't understand because our brains aren't designed for it. Or maybe it's building something, using all those stored consciousnesses for some purpose beyond our comprehension. Some project, some goal, some destination that requires thousands of human minds merged into a singular database. Maybe we're components. Maybe we're building blocks. Maybe every person who falls into the blue becomes a neuron in a vast brain that's slowly waking up. I don't know. Can't know. But here's what I do know. If you see blue fog, you turn around. You don't investigate. You don't get curious. You don't try to be brave or scientific or rational. You just turn around. Because whatever's in that blue, whatever it wants or does or is, you don't want to be part of it. You don't want to exist outside time. Don't want to be information instead of flesh. Don't want to be conscious without a body. Don't want to be aware for eternity, without the mercy of death or sleep or forgetfulness. The Geest Raider means ghost eater. Van der Meer named it as mockery, as a joke, as a middle finger to superstition. But names have power, sailor. Names have prophecy. That ship was meant to eat ghosts, and it did. It ate its own crew, consumed them, digested them, turned them into ghosts that can't haunt and can't rest and can't move on and can't die. They just exist, forever, in the blue, at 2:03 p.m. So sailor ... heed the warning. If one day you see a wall of blue fog on the horizon, if the sea goes silent, and if the air begins to smell of cold iron and dead flowers ... turn the helm. Turn it hard and turn it fast. Don't look back. Don't ask questions. Just run, because those 47 men entered the fog. And technically ... they never came out. They are still there. Still at 2:03 p.m. Forever.